So Sicily is secured on August 17th of 1943, and as I had mentioned before, the Allies now have their sights set on Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Murphy will be a part of what's called Operation Avalanche, and that is the amphibious landings near the port of Salerno. They'll be launched on September 9th, 1943, and initially the fighting is going to be fierce. It's going to be way more than what they experienced on Sicily.
Okay.
And it will take the British and Americans, there's about a 35-mile stretch of coastline that they land on. It'll take them 2 days to link up and secure that beachhead.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're really getting after it.
Yeah, I'm sure any Italian or German troops that were left over on Sicily, they went to the mainland and they're just like ready.
There's a big evacuation from Messina, and maybe one day we'll cover the Italian campaign as a whole and kind of go into details on why all that happened. But you're right, there was a big exodus, a big evacuation of German troops from Messina back to mainland Italy.
So they got to know it's coming.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure they're set up and they're going to make it stiff.
And it's the terrain in Italy, man. The terrain, you think. It's kind of like, I'll be honest with you, unless you're studying this, I didn't really know what to think about the terrain in Italy, but it's mountainous, a bunch of rock quarries. It's not easy to maneuver through. And these guys are duking it out, man. I mean, the Germans have a very capable commander at this time. He's experienced, and he's like a chess player when it comes to strategy, right? And he's an expert chess player at that. At this point in time, a lot of the American commanding generals are still kind of new to the job, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not to take anything away from them, because ultimately we do succeed and capture Italy, but the fight is going to be a slugfest. Now, the Germans will continue to counterattack. There'll be portions of that beachhead line, they will almost push the Allies back into the ocean, right? I mean, it gets really close. There's some nasty fighting that takes place. And it's during this fighting, Murphy will have a skirmish that he really starts to show his true colors as a fighting man. So along the Volturno River, it's going to be Murphy, his best friend, his name is Laddie Tipton, and then an unnamed soldier. I couldn't get the name. I couldn't find the name of this third soldier in any of this in Audie Murphy's book or any of the other stuff that I used to research.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to be walking along this river, and near a bridge, they'll be ambushed by a German machine gun crew. Now, in that initial burst, that unnamed soldier is going to be killed. So it's just, at this point now, it's just Laddie Tipton and Audie Murphy. Well, Laddie Tipton throws a handful of grenades in the direction he thinks the bunker is at.
Okay.
Following those grenades, Murphy runs up with a Thompson submachine gun, and he ends up killing, I want to make sure I get this right, but he ends up killing 5 German soldiers single-handedly with a Thompson submachine gun. So already the guy is just showing himself to be, I don't think people realize, because you can throw that out and it just seems like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, oh, whatever. You see it in the movies, you see it in video games, and like, that's nothing. Dude, to kill 5 guys by yourself is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, and you got to be right up on that nest or in the nest with them.
Right, because it's a .45 caliber round, so it's not like he's shooting at him from a distance. He's like right there.
Yeah,
he's got to be right there.
Or else he's going to get lit up.
Yep. And keep in mind, they're trying to kill him as hard as they can. It's not like they're just chilling. Oh yeah, come shoot me, no problem. Like 1 to 5 is insane, right? I would never want to be found. I would never want to find myself in that position in combat. This is the first time he does it. He will do that time and time and time again. I don't know. This guy, he's Superman, dude. It doesn't make any sense. That's
cool.
Now, shortly after this engagement, Audie Murphy will be promoted to the rank of sergeant. So he's really starting to move up the ranks. Not only that, his unit is losing guys very rapidly as well, and we'll kind of get into some of those numbers here in a little bit, but the fighting is very serious. Now, by early October, southern Italy will be in the control of the Allies, right?
Very good.
What happens at that point, though, as winter starts to approach, is the Germans will take up a defensive line across what's called the Volturno line, along the Volturno River. That is so hard for me to say. But it's their first of a series of defensive lines that they use to delay the Allies. And with the winter conditions and these pre-made defensive lines with these just incredible fighting positions, the fight at that point turns into this grinding war of attrition, and it is going to take a toll on the Allies. They're going to lose just unbelievable amounts of guys. And it will culminate in the fight at Monte Cassino, which is probably the most famous fight in all of Italy. Now, that being said, Audie Murphy is not going to be participating in the fight at Monte Cassino.
Malaria again?
Well, it's funny you say that because, yes, he is going to catch malaria again. But to give a little bit of a background here, the fighting in Monte Cassino was such a stalemate, and it was such a meat grinder. So many guys were dying that in an effort to kind of flank the Germans that were holding Monte Cassino, as well as to be able to capture Rome. For whatever reason, Rome was like this big, grand target that all the higher-ups wanted to capture, even though strategically at the time, it really there was no need to go capture Rome. But needless to say, it's on the agenda. They want to get it done. So in an effort to capture Rome and also to flank these Germans that are holding out at Monte Cassino, the 3rd Infantry Division, as well as the rest of the 7th Army, are going to make an amphibious assault at a town called Anzio on January 22nd, 1944. Really quick.
Wow.
They're making an amphibious landing in frigid cold Italy in January.
Yeah.
Think about how cold that water is, dude.
All the way cold, man.
And you're getting soaked. I mean, there's no way. There's no way you're not getting soaked when you make that assault, right? And it's not like you got to change of clothes. Everything you own is going to be soaked. They're not waterproofing stuff back then.
Nah.
Miserable.
Jeez, you don't think of that kind of stuff, man.
I mean, you really don't. I mean, we do because I'm thinking, okay, it's January. They're already talking about how miserable the weather is. Like I know what it's like to be at like in a combat zone and it be freezing cold and then your feet get wet. It's not like you can go to the store and get a new pair of boots or socks. Like what you have is what you have, and it's going to be wet until it dries. That's the way it works.
Yes. Yeah.
And just miserable. Now Murphy, like you had mentioned, he does fall ill again. He catches malaria and he's going to be unable to make that initial assault on the beachheads with his unit.
Bummer.
But Murphy will recover and he'll rejoin his unit, and when he does so, he'll do so as a staff sergeant section leader. So now he's really jumping the ranks. He's got a group of guys in charge of now. And again, dude, the guy's not even 19 years old yet.
Right. Well, they're probably all combat replacements too. So he's probably like, he's been there longest probably so far at least.
Well, I'm getting ready to enlighten. I'll enlighten you on the numbers here because it's unfreaking believable, dude.
All right.
This just gives you an idea. The Italian campaign is so overlooked because of all, because D-Day gets the spotlight, right? Like when you think of the fight in Europe, people automatically go directly to France.
Sure.
They kind of skip that whole time frame where it's just Italy that is the place we're focusing on. Because at this time, and God knows I love these dudes and like I respect them so much, but the guys of Easy Company, the guys that make up Band of Brothers, they're still training right now. They're not in combat. They're still over in England training for D-Day. Audie Murphy and the rest of these guys are freaking duking it out with the Germans in a nasty fight. So when he makes it back to his unit, he makes it back just in time for the first Battle of Cisterna on January 30th. And this will be the most fierce, intense, and sustained fighting that Murphy experiences to this point. It is a slaughter fest, dude. This is what Murphy says about it. I'm going to quote him directly because it's unbelievable. He says this, quote, "If the suffering of men could do the job, the German lines would be split wide open. Replacements cannot begin to keep pace with the slaughter. Some of the companies have been reduced to 20 men. Not a yard of ground has been gained by the murderous 3 days of assault." End quote. So to give you an idea what he's talking about, a normal World War II U.S. Army infantry company has about 200 guys in it. Okay, that's like standard. After the 3-day battle, Murphy's company would be left with fewer than 30 men alive. Dude.
And they didn't gain a yard.
Fewer than 30 men alive.
That
is so many people, dude. Like, we had a ton of KIA. In my mind, we had a ton of KIA in Marja.
Yeah.
It's nothing like that, though.
Nah.
This is a different level of warfare, and I'm so thankful that I didn't experience this kind of warfare. That is chaos at the utmost. And
it's Total war.
Murphy's just right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it. Yeah. Right where he wants to be, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would have had it any other way, but dude, it's not an easy thing to go through, you know. Now, because of the failed first battle of Cisterna, the men are going to be forced back to the Anzio beachhead, and they're going to remain there for months and months. They're going to have a defensive perimeter set up around this beachhead, and they're going to face off against numerous German counterattacks. They will hold off the Germans, but it's not pretty. Now, we get into the first action that Audie Murphy is going to get a decoration for.
Okay.
So, taking shelter in an abandoned farmhouse. This is on March 2nd. Artillery fire in support of Audie Murphy's position, his unit's position, is going to take out a German tank. And although the tank crew are killed as they try to flee the vehicle, Murphy's infantry kills them. Murphy knows that the tank can be repaired and used again. He's like, I can't let that happen, right? So he tells all his men, stay put. He takes an M1 Garand with the rifle grenades attacher on the front.
Yes.
Low crawls from this building that they're in. Low crawls up to this tank and destroys it with the rifle grenades. Permanently takes it out. And for that, he'll get a bronze star with a V device on it.
No kidding. Everybody's just watching him do this like a movie, probably.
He tends now. You'll see that Audie Murphy, as the war progresses, more and more and more starts doing things by himself. It's weird. He'll send his guys away to do the things he's getting ready to do. It's crazy. It's almost like he doesn't want to risk having any of them get hurt. He's like, I got this.
Sure.
I can handle it, you know?
I got an idea. I don't want anybody getting hurt over my ideas. I'll do it myself.
For weeks and weeks, he'll continue doing patrols out of this farmhouse. He'll capture numerous German prisoners. Obviously, they engage the Germans constantly. But again, he falls ill with malaria on the 13th of March. So not only is he fighting the enemy, but he's fighting sickness this entire time, right?
Just sounds like me and kidney stones.
Nonstop. Yeah.
Just a repeat problem.
You and those kidney stones,
repeat
dude.
offense.